Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. I'm your host, Deanna DeBolt, and I have a very special guest on the podcast today. My guest today is a speaker, singer, songwriter, and author whose work sits at the intersection of storytelling, healing, and social impact. She's the founder of Pages of Poetry, a trauma-informed creative studio amplifying voices through books, music, and soon visual media. As a Pulse nightclub survivor, her journey from surviving to creating has been marked by raw truth, poetic resilience, and a deep commitment to helping others rise through their own stories. Whether she's speaking on stages, releasing powerful music, or building community through advocacy, her presence is both purposeful and magnetic. Welcome, Patience Pay Murray, to the podcast.
Thank you. Oh my God, that's such a beautiful introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm
I'm so
so
happy to
happy
be
to
here.
have you. Just for the audience, we met last year because you invited me onto your podcast, and it was such an incredible conversation. I was like, I have to have you on here as well.
Yes, yes. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm just grateful to be connected with you. Happy to see you continue to rise and just walk into your destiny. It's beautiful. And I'm happy to be here to help celebrate you on that.
I
Mhm.
appreciate you so much. We have to do a little fun intro. I always ask all my guests this because I'm super into astrology.
Okay.
So I always ask everyone what their big three is in astrology, their sun, moon, and rising, because I think it gives a little bit of, info, details
hmm
about who they are and kind of how they're going to show up today. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear about that.
Well, you're gonna expose me right now because I don't actually know what my moon and sun signs are. I would love to know. So if anybody knows how to find that out, but I'm an Aries. I'm a
Oh,
March.
me
What?
too.
Ah, stop playing.
See, this is,
No
I'm an
way.
April Aries, but this is
I'm a
why.
March Aries. I'm a
This is
March
why.
Aries. I
Okay.
tend to get along very well with April Aries. Like I don't know what it is. It's a
Aries get along
magnetic
well.
thing. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah. Oh my God, I did not know that. I'm so happy to
I
know
didn't
that.
know that either because we didn't talk about it last time,
I
but that
know.
makes so much sense because I love other Aries. Like, I really, really do.
Me too. I empathize with us because I know our struggle.
Yes. Yeah. Listen,
I know our struggle.
yes, it's a struggle out
So,
here.
oh my God, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy to know that. Okay, let's get into
Yeah,
it. I'm
makes
excited.
sense. I'll show you afterwards how you can look at your other stuff. It's pretty easy. If you know your what time you were born, then you can just plug it in to like a calculator online and then it'll just spit everything out for you.
Okay,
So
okay. I'm gonna have
it's
to get
good.
that information as well.
It's good. I love that. So you have to share with us. Obviously, we're going to talk about your career and kind of different things that you've been through. But when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Wow, that's an amazing question. I always knew that I wanted to be a singer growing up.
Hmm.
So I remember this moment walking with my dad to daycare, and he asked me, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember looking up at my dad saying, Dad, I want to be a singer. Knew exactly what I wanted to do clear as day. And it's so ironic or just weird how life can kind of change you from what you just knew as a kid. Like, as a kid, it's just like one plus one equals two. What else is there? But as life goes on, you start to realize there are all these different factors in life and different, layers to the equation. And sometimes it doesn't always seem as simple, but that's what I wanted to be.
I love that. Then you almost kind of manifested it from a child, right? Like really believed that that was going to happen. But,
Right.
as far as I know from your background, it wasn't linear getting there, right? Like you did a bunch of other things. What do you think was necessary for you, or what do you think happened in your life to actually get you to that point where you can say, okay, I'm a singer songwriter, I'm actually living in my truth?
Mm. Complete surrender. Complete surrender. I think I went through so many different hats, trying on different identities, and coming to the place of lack of fulfillment in a lot of different things. And I realized that I never stopped writing songs. I never stopped singing. And when I really sat with that and listened to my unreleased music, I realized how much joy and fulfillment that I get from my music. And it was like, you have these narratives from, people that mean well and they have good intentions for you. I have family members who told me to just not, entertain music as like a real career because it wouldn't put food on the table essentially, right? So you won't make any money from it, things like that. So that narrative has always like stayed with me. So even through through some really like traumatic life experiences, music has still been there, but not until, I would say the last couple of years, like the last 2 to 3 years of really entertaining it as a profession that I could really craft my life around and experience joy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. And, I know you've been through a lot of different situations in your lifetime. One of them, which, I'm assuming is very significant, I know you've talked about many, many times, which is the Pulse shooting that happened in 2016. And I think it's just really important to your story to talk about what happened there because I feel like it really, I would assume, but you can share, changed a lot of things in different perspectives. And, if you're open to sharing kind of for those who maybe don't know what happened, just a little background and then kind of share your experience in that situation.
Yeah, and then thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my story. Um, you know, I always describe it as like the ultimate girls' night out because it truly was. I was invited to go on a family vacation of my friend at the time. This was my first time leaving Philadelphia, first time getting on a plane. So I was really excited about, having this moment. So when I went, did I think that the Pulse nightclub shooting was going to happen? Absolutely not. Because when we went out to the club, we were having the most amazing time. Like, could you picture like having that moment with your friends, just hanging out, chilling, laughing, dancing, meeting other people, and then all of a sudden, gunfire breaks out in another room. All of a sudden, people are scurrying, and you have no idea what to do. All of a sudden, you have to go back into a club because one of your friends is still in there, and all of a sudden, you're stuck in a bathroom stall for 3 hours because the police can't come in. All of a sudden, there's gunfire between the police and the gunmen, and then all of a sudden, you have gun wounds and everybody's dying around you and there's blood and there's all this chaos. And then all of a sudden you're in the hospital bed and you're processing what happened and you realize that you made it out of that. So there was a lot of things that I wouldn't have expected like that night and things throughout my healing journey that I wouldn't have expected either. So it's a constant unfolding even now, coming back to the music, coming back to the things that give me joy, coming from such a broken place, like deep, dark, depressed place, and also a place where I kind of just wanted to sacrifice myself in a way because of that survivor's guilt. I survived, so I don't really feel like I deserve to be here. So I'm gonna, sacrifice everything that I love, everything that I truly want to do, and be this kind of like martyr for whatever I was thinking, So just kind of like disregarding myself completely, to be this hero, to be this speaker, person that uplifts others and stuff like that, which I love to do, but not all the time in the way that I was being primed to do it. And I realized that I was kind of leading with victimhood as opposed to thinking of myself as a champion, as somebody who overcame my circumstances. I was kind of stuck like in that victim mentality and kind of meeting people there. And I didn't understand why that work was so exhausting for me. But now, taking a break from it, venturing into other things that do bring me joy, I realized like it wasn't necessarily sharing my story, but it was showing up as a victim part that was in, I would guess, in resistance with the growth and with, I guess, the warrior in me that just wanted to shine bright. And I kept dimming that because of whatever, just feeling like I didn't deserve to be here, feeling I didn't deserve a second chance at life.
I really appreciate you sharing that. I know it's, not easy, and that was a very tragic situation that happened. What advice would you give to anybody going through anything similar, just having similar feelings as you, of feeling like what you said of not being worthy of living or having that survivor's guilt? Like, how do you move past that?
Well, for starters, you have to have the utmost grace and compassion for yourself because especially if you've gone through things that most people wouldn't understand unless they've experienced it, you really have to give yourself grace in that there may not be an exact blueprint for you to kind of follow. And your journey is different from everybody else's. So even those who have gone through similar experiences, they're not necessarily you and how you would respond. So just being aware of the filters that you may have already from childhood. So my mom, she abandoned, me and my family when I was 2 years old. So that abandonment, kind of underlying issue kind of showed up in my healing journey, surviving the Pulse nightclub shooting, right? Feeling like, people weren't really going to be there for me. People weren't going to show up for me. People weren't going to, be there for me the way that I needed them to. That sometimes makes you reject the help and reject the support, reject the love because you think people are going to leave you. And sometimes that elongates your healing journey because you're not willing to receive the help. So just kind of being aware of those childhood wounds that could interrupt or kind of intercept your healing process from whatever it is that you're healing from, whether it's something from your childhood or whether it's something that happened, maybe like even a terrible breakup that happened that broke your heart, and you feel like, how am I ever going to be able to move past this point and love again? So there's so many different things, but grace, compassion for yourself, being aware of those filters that you may have, and just, just being aware is the most important thing starting out.
Definitely. I definitely think that's great advice for anyone going through even a smidge of similar feelings, is that you obviously are very creative. And I think that putting pain into creativity can often be quite helpful. You wrote a poem called The Guilt of Feeling Grateful to Be Alive is Heavy. What was it like to really put language and give language to something so unspeakable and really share it with other people in the world?
That's a great question. And it was even in those moments of surrender, like even with that poem, because one of my nurses, Nurse Janet, came and gave me that journal in like the middle of the night because I was up till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning watching the news, just like watching the highlights of everything that happened. I'm just like still in shock that it was me that was in there and me that came out. So she came, gave me the journal, and suggested that I write. And I stared at it for at least an hour because I was still up watching the news. And then something inside of me, and I believe it was the Lord, just prompted me, pick up the journal and write. And I did. And the first few sentences that came out, was exactly what the poem was and everything that it stood for, which is, the guilt of feeling grateful to be alive is heavy, wanting to survive, wanting to smile about surviving, but not sure if the people around you are ready. And that's like so real, because you could go through something and come out on the other side of it. But because you're feeling, like, oh, these people weren't able to like come with me. And this could be in any different regard, or because other people weren't able to survive, then I don't get the chance to be grateful about living. And that's such a weird place to be in. And you kind of like still, in certain moments kind of like deal with that. But that journey of surrendering to the fact that this life is much bigger than what you can understand. Right. And just kind of surrendering to that. So even those words, like the poem, I didn't ask to write those words. Those were the words that flowed out of my heart from the spirit. And I just needed to get that out. So how people responded to it, I'm like really grateful for the response, but the realness of that is the heaviness, the heaviness of what I was actually feeling in those moments. So definitely creativity is a great way to kind of silence anxiety, silence everything that you got going on, to be able to express yourself. If that's something that you choose to do, sometimes like people don't kind of look at themselves as creative, but we all have like a creative side to us and everything. So if you want to do that, definitely lean into that.
Yeah. I love that. And something else you said that really resonated with me is that stories aren't just chapters of pain, they're launch pads for purpose. And so, from your perspective, how did surviving polls shape your sense of purpose?
Oh man, purpose is such a loaded just essence in itself. And resilience is a huge part of my purpose, and not just for me, but bringing that out in others, because sometimes life can make you think that you're much weaker than what you really are until you go through something, and then you realize you have no other choice but to be strong. But to avoid getting to that place, even to avoid getting to that place where you have to show up in that strength, if you could just grow in love and grow in joy and know that you have this built up reserve inside of you that you can tap on at any moment, and be this resilient warrior inside yourself, and just become somebody who can pull yourself out of those things. Like I think that's a part of my purpose, because I've been through so many things in my life from childhood on, like just not having my mom in my life, my dad, the different issues that he's had, with alcoholism and things like that. He's in a much better place now. I'm so proud of him. But during those times, like of my childhood, there was some really traumatic things that happened, repeatedly over and over again, living with different family members and just being verbally, not supported. I wouldn't say abused is a stretch, but not supported, right? And carrying all of that into this Pulse nightclub shooting, I didn't even realize before then that I was like actually really strong, even going into that moment. Didn't know that in a lot of ways I was kind of in training for what kind of experience that I would have to survive, and mentally come out of. But that's all God. That's all strategic, alignment, and that's surrendering again. Not really understanding, the greater purpose necessarily doesn't necessarily, let me see. disqualify you from your purpose because you don't understand. It's still yours. You can still lean into it, even if it's just, Lord, I don't know. I don't know what the purpose is. I don't know what this is all about or how you're doing this. I know that something is working together for my good. I know that somehow it's going to be okay, even though I can't see it in this particular situation. But Lord, just guide me, guide my steps, and continue to, direct my path. And that's really been the cornerstone of everything in my life is my faith. So along with all the other things that I said, faith is really at the root. So just going back to that little kid version of myself, I would just sit on the floor, like reading the Bible. Like, what kid does that? But that was literally me as a kid, like reading Psalms and Proverbs. Those were my two favorite parts of the Bible. And I would just kind of bask in that. So even with the faith instilled, all in my great grandmother being a church prayer warrior, and then coming into all these different moments, it's like everything in my life prepared me to survive something like a post nightclub shooting. And even though you may not, identify those things within yourself throughout your journey, but there's things that you've overcome already that have made you prepared for whatever it is that you're going through. So you have the strength inside of you. So I think part of my purpose is to remind people that they do have strength inside themselves. And even if they don't, God can help them. So.
I love that. And, that goes into what I was going to ask you is obviously, your music specifically, you have so many poems and music that just really have a lot of emotions in them. And I'm wondering, do you write those more for yourself, or do you have a woman in mind or someone in mind that you're trying to give hope to or courage to when you're writing those?
Thank you for just showing the complexity and the differences that it could be with music, because sometimes people assume that it's just your story that you want to tell. But a lot of my music, especially these days, like songs like Pen Cry, especially with Ty Scott King, these are songs with the intention of helping somebody else articulate what they can't. Whatever pain, whatever difficulty, whatever confusion, whatever sadness, being able to give a language to that through music is something that I wanted to achieve with that song. And I think it has absolutely done that. I'm just so grateful. And in the future, I would love to share more of my personal stories as well, more into the music, especially with love, because I feel like the world needs more love. Absolutely. There needs to be this balance, too, of being able to express where you are and also celebrating the future version of yourself that is yours, right? And it's just that kind of assured confidence and surrender in that confidence that everything is going to be okay. So I kind of want to have, both sides. Like, yes, I'm also empathizing with you because I understand, because I'm also a person that's in healing and I'm a survivor and I can help you give language, through my music. But at the same time, I want to remind you, hey, this isn't it. Like when we let our pen cry, and then we go out, we have some fun. We go out and we smile. We go out and live. We go out and laugh. We go out and make memories to celebrate. Life is there's so much more to life than exactly this moment of where we are. And if we just slow it down a little bit and have patience with ourselves, we can really realize okay, in this very moment, I can choose whatever path I want to take to create new experiences in my life. And I get to say that, I get to control that. I don't have to stay stuck in the past. I don't have to keep writing the same story over and over and over again. I get to choose. And again, going back to the purpose question you had earlier, that's also a part of it. Just like letting people know, survivors know, that even the language of survivor, if you want to identify yourself as a champion instead, because that's more aligned with where you are, then do that. You don't have to stay in the victimhood. You don't have to even stay in the survivorhood. If you want to just be yourself, you can remove all the labels and just be that and surrender into where you're, God, and where your higher self, God, and your higher self is calling you to.
I think that's very interesting because I do think a lot of people get stuck in labels or what other people put onto them. But really, you have the power to change the narrative and change the words that you're using. I think for a lot of people, that's really challenging to do. I would think as an artist, when you're thinking about these things and the nuances, maybe it can be helpful to sort of channel that energy into your art and then find a way to sort of release and then reframe what it is that you actually want to be.
Absolutely. And I have songs that I've wrote years ago, really songs. I have a song called Disappointed. And it was just expressing just the overall disappointment I was feeling in my relationship at the time. And maybe one day I'll share that with the world because maybe a woman will resonate with that. But then I also have songs about the resilience of love and going through the scars. I have a song called Through the Scars no one's ever heard. But these are all songs that, were moments where I needed to express myself and just let the pain out and like literally drain that pain into the pen onto the page. And that's exactly what those songs were. So there's so much more to the story. I think just in my life journey in general and my family's life journey. And I'm learning so much about my family history as well that's going to shape and impact my music. I didn't even know that my generation is, 4 generations away from slavery. I didn't know that my great grandmother and great grandfather have stories of just like all the horrors and things that happened during those times of racism when it was running rampant in our country. And to know that a lot of that history is being erased today, it's kind of crazy and scary to think that, people are even alleging that, slavery and all these things never even happened. So it's like so much information out there, information, misinformation, overload. So I think as far as purpose goes, just kind of expand that a little bit more. I think our purpose is constantly growing and expanding as well. The more we experience life and the more aware that we are of how we're, engaging in our experiences. Creativity is a beautiful tool, to help you reflect on that and see the change within yourself and see how you're evolving. So that's definitely a powerful tool.
How do you manage all of this? Like you talked about learning about, your family and your ancestors and all of these things. How do you manage all of this information that you're getting as you're learning about it in a way that I would assume it has an effect, right, on your emotions and your being. Why wouldn't it?
And that's so real. And it's that awareness again of how it's, impacting you. And for me, and I recently found all this stuff out, it kind of made me a little bit more understanding as to how I'm so resilient because it didn't start with my generation. I have a family of people who overcome extreme adversity, dating back 4 generations and leading to slavery. So it's kind of like, okay, now I understand how I am the way that I am. And people would always ask me, how did you survive something like that? How are you able to kind of live? And I could only speak from a place of what I understood of myself. I never had this context. So context, it changes, how you go about your life. And it honestly creates a little bit more of a pride in me of, where I come from and the things that I've overcame. So I'm so grateful to have the knowledge and the history. That's so important. So I think it just makes you more aware of why you are the way that you are. And it makes you a little bit more conscious of how you can choose certain decisions and not be afraid and fearful, knowing that you have strength inside of you, knowing that you were equipped for this generations, before you.
Yeah. That's incredible. And when you're talking, the word I'm thinking of is just resilience that keeps coming up. Like you just seem like so incredibly resilient. How would you define resilience to you right now in this moment? What does it look like to you?
I've never been asked that question before, and I guess I've never even thought about that before, but resilience is resilience is the ability to regain your joy for life despite everything that's going on. And I feel like that is something that's so overlooked and highly underrated. But going through the different experiences that I've gone through in my life, I have every excuse to not want to get out of bed. I have every excuse to just complain and be mad and upset and angry, like especially when I have some sort of discomfort with my leg because I was shot in my both legs, but the bullet that entered my right thigh it shattered my femur. So even to this day, I have like a metal rod and screws in my legs. This is what's holding my leg together. I have these really huge scars and bullet wounds in my legs. I could be sitting here just upset and angry, like, man, why do I have these scars? Or why do I have to have like this discomfort in my leg? Why can't I, have the life that I thought that I was going to have or whatever the case? So many reasons to complain. But even me, still choosing to see the bright side, choosing to be like, you know what? I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I have life. I'm grateful that I have this awareness to be able to look around and choose a different choice today that could move me closer to whatever it is that God is calling me to do. So I think that joy, having the ability to regain that joy despite all adversity is a huge component to resilience. I don't think it's the only one, but I think that's a really powerful one that people need to look at a little bit more closely.
I love that. That's a beautiful definition, and I think that that's really helpful to look at life this way. And you mentioned this a little bit, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Is, when you're talking about your career and your next move or things that you're doing, how do you know when something is the right decision? Like, for example, in your career, how do you know that doing music or poetry or whatever it is that you're doing is the right thing to do in that moment for you?
That's really good. I don't think I've mastered the knowing of how to make those decisions beforehand, because maybe low key ADHD, I don't know, but I impulsively make decisions a lot and I just go for it. Like if I think of something and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I have a new show idea or a new segment idea. I'm going for it. I think of a new business idea. I'm going for it. And in that process of me going for it, I'll learn something. Whether, you know what, maybe I shouldn't went for it this fast, or maybe this is something that's really good. Let me put a pin in this, come back to it in 2 years because I'll have more opportunity to really dive into it. Or maybe I realized that this wasn't a good idea at all. Why did I think that I could do this? Or why did I think I wanted to do this? I don't even like doing this. Let's scrap it, But that knowing that, okay, I tried it and this is the experience that I got from it. This is the intel that I can use to make better decisions in the future. The only way to really get that intel is to do the thing. So you got to kind of do more things to really know, okay, that doesn't really sit well with me. I don't really, that doesn't really feel like me. Or maybe this kind of feels like me, but maybe not for me right now. So you just kind of got to do more things.
It's interesting because most people have the exact opposite. They're like, I have to be 1,000,000% sure before I make a move or take the next step. I see this a lot with my clients, especially because they coach a lot of, career coaching clients, and they're thinking about their next move and what to do, and they're just a lot of times paralyzed from making a decision. Do you feel like this mindset of yours is because of everything you've gone through, or do you think it's your personality, or maybe a mix of both?
I definitely think there's a mix of both. But I did for a lot of my life, I just kind of was like naive. Sometimes just being naive is good in a way because you're not factoring in all the things that could go wrong. You're not factoring in all the ways that, things could not work out. But then of course you go through life and I think we all hit this phase in our life where we start overthinking everything. And we just start like, oh man, no. And you hold on the idea for like 2 years and it's still 2 years and the idea still isn't done. So I do resonate with that. I really do. But I think at some point you get to a spot in your soul when you're just fed up with yourself. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm just sort of fed up with all the things in my life that I know that I was called to do. Maybe I did attempt it, but I didn't see it through. And those are some of the things I was talking about. Let me circle back on that because let me put a pin in that because I wasn't the person capable of seeing that through at that time. But maybe I am that person now, just through the experiences that I went through in life. And sometimes we all have moments where we may have dropped the ball on something, and it's okay. And it's okay to admit that I dropped the ball on that. But I'm a much stronger, smarter, more compassionate version of myself than I was then. So maybe, having that time with God and just talking to God openly, like, what is the next best thing for me to do? Because I have all these things that I could do, all these things that seem legitimately good to do. But what is the thing that will help me move closer to the version that you want me to be? So, and that always helps you as well, because there's so many things that you could do. And that's part of my, I guess, like my character flaw, because we all have something. But my character flaw at times is my impulsiveness to just kind of jump right into something, and which is why I'm kind of on this have patience journey right now of really like embracing my name, right? And really learning what does practicing patience look like in your journey. But it's not without action, but it's a patient sort of demeanor and attitude as you do the work, knowing that you don't have to rush, knowing that there's no need for anxiety and wasting that energy into imagining things that you don't want. Patiently doing the work steadily with that confidence and that stillness, knowing that everything is going to work out. So I'm going to stay on this journey. I'm going to have patience, but having patience does not mean not moving. It means moving, but moving with that attitude, that posture of surrender. So I think that'll help somebody. I feel that helped me, reminded me of that.
I love that. I love that you can sort of relate back to your name and say, like, okay, what does this mean for me and how can I actually use this or relate to this in my daily life? I love that.
Thank you. I'm like, God, see, God be knowing. He be knowing.
Yeah. There's a reason for
There's a
everything.
reason. There's a reason for everything.
I
Oh my
believe
God.
that too. I really do believe that. Something that I'm curious about, I consider myself a creative person as well. Obviously, not on your level, but I'm very creative. I love being creative as well, but I don't always have the energy to be creative, especially in a world that isn't built for that, right? We need to pay our bills. We have to, make money, and creativity doesn't always pay the bills. So, how do you show up and how do you sort of move through the world being a creative person and wanting to do creative work in a society that isn't really built for that?
You got to be relentless with it. And in the sense of, again, like that knowing that everything is going to work out. So even if I have to work a job right now, even if I have to, work a 9 to 5 to sustain my life. And so I can be able to invest in my art. And maybe it's only an hour that I get once a week to be able to do that, really commit and be in my zone of genius, then that's enough right now because I know this is all working for me, right? So you just kind of have to have that knowing that even if you don't have as much time as the next person has, or even if you don't have the opportunities that the next person has, your unique journey is yours. And your journey is yours, and it's like perfectly designed for you. So that surrender again of just knowing, like, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're having the experiences that you're supposed to have to move you to whatever awareness that you need to craft the life that God wants for you. So it's all working out. So even if you're going to a job every day that you hate right now, try to again like find that joy, something to be joyful about, something to have gratitude about, and then infuse that, that positive outlook even into your music and write your future. So I think sometimes our music and our creativity, we do have an ability to write the things that we want and manifest the things that we want. So if you're take all that energy from all the experiences and unpleasant life experiences as well, but also remember to transmute that into something positive and say, you know what? I'm coming out on the other side of this. I'm a winner. I know that this is going to work out for me. I know everything is working out for me. And there's like this little like TikTok viral video that was going around. I should have did it, but everything is working out for me. Like that's the attitude no matter what. Like you just got to keep defaulting back to that. Even when you try to talk yourself out of that positive attitude and life just gets like, ooh, it just starts pulling on your energy. You just got to fight back with that positive, joyful, outlook. Have patience. Know that everything's going to work out.
Well, there's the quote that's like, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like the greatest form of resistance is joy or something like that. Like it really is so powerful, especially with everything going on in the world or just anything we have going on in our lives. Like being joyful and happy is actually really powerful.
And I would say it's easier. I would say it's easier to exist in your joy and exist in your zone of genius in whatever it is that you're doing. Even if it's pottery for you, like even if you love doing pottery, you could do pottery for hours and not think about the time, right? If it's something that you love to do. So for me, that's very much so with music for me. I have the most horrible day. You go into my tech job and just like, man, I hate this. Come home and then my son and just like get him ready for bed, do our little routine, exhausted. It could be spend time with my husband, watch a movie, and it could be like 12 o'clock at night, right? If I feel like, you know what, I'm gonna go pour into me and pour into my craft. I could be up until 3 a.m., wake back up at 6 a.m. and feel like the best I've ever felt because I didn't just end the day with all the things I had to do, but I spent time doing the things that I love to do. So that made the whole day worth it. So you got to end your day. You got to end your day with something that you love and that pouring that energy back into yourself because it's nobody else's job to do that. That's your job to water yourself.
I love that. And that's really good advice, I think, because I think a lot of people, whether you have kids or not, or what kind of life you live, you're working a job, you're doing all these things, and then you don't have time for yourself, or you don't have time to do the things for you. So I love that sentiment of, even if it's just a little bit, if it's an hour a week or whatever it is, pour into yourself, because that's what's actually going to help you to feel that positivity and feel that joy.
Yes, and joy is so strong. It's like such a
Yes.
strong feeling and a strong emotion that just like it's such a healing feeling. And I really encourage more people to lean into what gives them joy, like absolute joy, because that's the medicine. That's the medicine for the soul to kind of make up for the harshness and the roughness, the toughness that you need to go through life and every day. But that joy, it's replenishing. So lean into
Yeah,
that.
I love that. I definitely want to ask you about, showing up in industries and spaces that aren't built for women and Black women especially. And how do you show up? How is it navigating those spaces and industries where they're not built for women and women of color?
That's such a great question. I love this podcast, by the way. But you just have to show up like God sent you there. You got to show up like you know your steps are ordered. You got to show up like you know that before any label, before being, a woman, before being a Black woman, before being a minority woman, any woman, that you are first a child of God, right? That this path was already laid out before you even got here, before you became a being into existence, right? So just kind of leaning into this more spiritual version of yourself, of knowing that it's way more than me being Black or me being white, me being a man or me being a woman, right? It's a spiritual alignment as to why I'm in this room, right? Because God allowed me to be in this room. That's why I'm here. Then we can, get into the things that, are cultural differences and the things that are similarities and really lean into and celebrate that. But first and foremost, we're all children of God. So we all have a place, a space to be in these rooms because we all have our own individual destiny. So just that, I get a lot of just like peace in knowing that, like in knowing that. That's how I show up. Like, thank you, God.
Yeah. Yeah. I work with mostly women, and I work with a lot of women of color as well. And there's a huge contrast between how women feel in spaces versus how I see men showing up in spaces. And I always have to tell them, you're way more qualified usually than the men that are applying. I always tell them, why don't you should think like a straight white man, have that mentality. And that kind of goes to what you said about
Yes.
just showing up, like just be there because you're meant to be there. And it's so interesting that we've really been socialized to think that we need to do 5 times as much to get half the credit as a man. And
That's insane.
it is insane. It
That's
is
insane.
insane. It's a lot of relearning. It's a lot of trauma. It's a lot of, limiting beliefs that we have. And it's a challenging. And if all women could show up the way that we know that they should be showing up, the world, I feel like, would be such a different place. We would have such different dynamics because we really are worthy of being in those spaces.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right on track with that. And you're not the first person I heard say that. I heard Ava DuVernay also say that about showing up, as a straight white male and just walk in that room like you own the room. So I totally get that. That's the identity shifting, right? Like having that, awareness, knowing when you need to put on a different hat real quick, because sometimes we could stay stuck in certain hats because we were used to wearing that hat of just being the servant hat, the servant leader hat, right? And that's okay. But sometimes when you got to put on that, I don't want to curse, but just like put on that boss
You can.
hat.
You can.
Sometimes you got to put on that boss bitch hat and you got to walk into
There
that
you
room
go.
like you own the room because, listen, because again, God sent you in that room. Okay. You wouldn't even,
Exactly.
the opportunity would not have presented itself if you weren't ready for it. So show up to it like you've been preparing for it your whole life, and that's it. And that's it. It doesn't even matter what you look like. And, through sales, okay, I'm going to talk about my 9 to 5 real quick. So through sales, this is something I had to learn and adopt because I was really vulnerable, with my teams. Like, hey, I don't think these people are going to trust me because I'm Black. Straight point. And definitely not because I'm a Black woman. right?
Yeah.
It took one of the other black male counterparts to talk to me and say, hey, none of that shit matters. So, like, this is sales. They don't care about any of that. If you're qualified to be here, then show up like it and just do the work, because that's going to speak for itself. Trust the process. That's it. And you got to do the same thing. Trust the process in your life. Trust that if you show up, you do the work, you have that right attitude, that all the things that you want to happen are going to happen. And it's not going to happen because you're black or because you're not black or because you're a woman or because you're not a woman. Like, it's going to happen because you showed up, you did the work, you had the right attitude. And just kind of leaning onto those principles of just knowing that if you show up like that, surrender to that, everything's going to be okay. Like, everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Do you have any advice for women, especially women of color, who maybe are in spaces where they don't feel completely welcome or comfortable and maybe are dealing with sexism and racism? Do you have any words of encouragement or advice for those women to just keep going?
First of all, I empathize. I empathize with the women that are going through those experiences. And this is where sometimes we have to lean on a higher power that is not our own. When we are going for that reserve inside ourselves and it feels like that tank is empty and we got nothing to pull on because maybe you've exhausted your last coupon for caring today, and somebody at your job just like used that last coupon and now you're on empty. Go to God. Take all of that sadness, that anger, that just overall maybe even feeling regretful about some of the choices of being in certain spaces. Take all that to God and just talk to God like a friend about it. Like, God, like, I really feel like I should have gotten this promotion. Everything in my qualifications says that I should be the person that gets this promotion. God will maybe show you something in that meditation time that shows you that it's okay that you were overlooked and rejected during this time. It was a gift, because you're going to use that experience to build your own company, to build your own business, to build your own brand, to create your own deals, So it's all happening for you. It's all happening for you. So even those moments of where you feel small, just kind of surrender to that moment, right? Feel what you're feeling. Maybe if you can write it down, if you have a pen or paper or you have your notes, write down those notes, take those notes to God during that prayer time, meditation time, get some sun, get some air, allow the answers to come to you, right? Because sometimes they don't come right away. Just allow the answers to come to you as to maybe why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. And maybe it is training for you to be that leader that you said that you wanted to be, or to be that boss woman that you wanted to build a life towards. And maybe these experiences are the types of things that those women are going through all the time. And you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And sometimes the training starts before we think we're even ready for the training. Here we are. And we just got to keep pressing and moving forward with the knowing that you're meant to be here, no matter what anybody else thinks. If God placed you in the room, meant to be in the room.
I love that. That's great advice. And I think definitely something that the audience can take away as well. I want to shift gears just slightly. You're a mom. Yes. You have a son.
Yes.
How has becoming a mother shifted the way you move through the world?
Okay. So my son's name is Amari.
I love
Amari. Amare, right? Mm-hmm. If you flip that upside down and you read it backwards, it's aware.
Wow.
Aware, right? So Amari is exactly that for me. He has made me so much more present and aware in my life, that I'm aware of how I need to be showing up for him. I can tell him affirmations like every day. And like, you are strong, you are smart, you are talented, you are loved, right? And that awareness of how I'm loving this little creature and this little being that I prayed for 4 years and didn't think that I would have him, and then it finally happened in the most beautiful, amazing way. And everything, the pregnancy was just stress-free, perfect. And he's here and he's the most amazing little human being. It just made me more aware that, hey, even if it's something is happening nothing is happening for 4 years, have patience and know that everything is going to work out. Be aware that everything is going to work out. Don't go through it with the attitude, just like sucking your teeth and looking for things to complain about all the time, because all of that is not even necessary, because it's already worked out if you just trust and lean into that everything is working out. Amari reminded me of that, and he confirmed that for me, because he is an answered prayer. So it just creates more joy in me, because I realize, oh, thank you, God, like for this awareness that I have, because now I can go through other journeys that may take a long time, especially like with anything else, like building a business, building a brand, or, building your music career, or whatever the case. That awareness of that everything is going to be okay is key. And Amari helped me cement that like into my being as a as a mom, So and leaning on God for my motherhood journey has been so essential. You know, it's
Yeah.
really strengthened my relationship with God as well. Because obviously, like God, I've been talking to you about this for 4 years. Nothing was happening, and then boom, you surprised me. So now it creates that relationship with God. Like, you hear me, you're looking out, like you're looking out for me, and I thought it was gonna happen, and then didn't happen. So it just like help me build my relationship with God as well and awareness.
Did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
I fought against it.
Really? Wow.
I fought against it. I remember before meeting my husband, I said, I don't want any kids. I don't want no man with kids.
Really?
Really,
Interesting.
really. My husband had a kid already. And that already just took a never say never, right? That just took that right off the table. And then Amari is here. So I'm living in a life that I said that I would never, like have or never, experience. So this is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. But that has to do a lot with my upbringing, right? And my abandonment issues, fearing that I would be, I would make the certain choices like that my mom made, for my children that she made for me. But the more I understand like the history and the backstory, it makes me more compassionate for even my mother as a mom, as a woman, right?
Yeah.
Because she was going through a lot. So
Yeah.
mentally and physically, spiritually, all the things. So now that I'm a mom, I really understand that a lot more. That if you don't have that support system, if you don't have that partner who's going to help you, really grow a good human being in the world, it's difficult. So imagine having the 5 other little ones at the same time. That's a lot. So, and that was my mother's story. So it really, just this whole mommyhood journey has made me a much more aware, compassionate, I would say more loving, and just peaceful person.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I'm very fascinated by this topic. I don't have kids, but I do want them. I've always known I'm going to be a mom since I
You're
was
gonna be a
like
great
little.
mom.
Thank you. It's just something I've always known. Like it's just been this knowing inside of me. I can't explain it. Like
I
I've
can
known I'm
really
going to
see
have a
that for you.
daughter. I've known her name since I was a child. I've dreamt with her. I've dreamt when she's going to be born, like what month. Like it's crazy. A lot of like things
I'm
like this.
excited for you. I can see
Yeah.
this totally happening for you in the way that like you dreamed of, and maybe even better than the way that you dreamed of. So I'm excited. I'm celebrating for you in advance.
Thank you. Well, not anytime soon. So let's
Like, let's
well,
slow down.
let's give it a few years, and then she
Funny.
can come. We're not going to manifest her too soon.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's just very interesting to hear. I love hearing from moms or even non-moms of like their thoughts around motherhood, because it's something that I've definitely struggled with. Even though I've known I've always wanted to be a mom, I'm also very career oriented, which I know you are as well. And it gets to a point where it's like, okay, how do you balance those things? Society asks us as women to be literally everything for everyone. So I'm wondering how you balance everything in your life. And, I don't like this whole phrase of like can a woman have it all? Because I just think that sets us up for failure. And I think it puts unrealistic expectations on women. But how do you balance motherhood with being a partner with your own creativity and your career?
Well, through lots of trial and error of getting to moments where I felt completely depleted and felt like just completely used up, just like I feel like I've given everything to everybody else's dream, given all of my energy to empowering and, orchestrating and all these things and just feeling like having nothing left for myself. And then you start to be really resentful, like towards life, and you start to resent the people around you. And these are people you love, So being again like aware of why are you feeling like that? Having compassion with yourself and sitting with that. Why are you feeling like that? And like journaling, talking to God about it, and really coming to the conclusion like, oh, the reason why I'm feeling like this is not because I really want to feel this way towards the people that I love. It's the fact that I've been neglecting myself. And that was my job. So the one job, most important job of me taking care of myself is something I put not even on the list. Wasn't even on the list. So that awareness that, oh, I got to put myself on the list. I have to water me. Like I have to prioritize the things that give me joy. I have to prioritize feeling, like I've grounded myself for today in my faith and just like feeling beautiful, because nobody's going to do that work for me. Like that's not going to show up in the results if I don't put that in. So I have to put that work in for me, just like I'm doing for everybody else for whatever else. Like, so just that awareness of, you have to prioritize that time for yourself and be relentless about it, just like with your creativity and that love too, because the love of what you do in your creative space is what kind of fuels you, and that's what kind of gives you the energy. In the same way, those self-care routines and things like that, it's because you love yourself and you want yourself to be happy and have a stress-free night and wake up feeling refreshed or wake up to a beautiful space. But it starts with building that self-love within yourself. So affirmations have really been powerful for me, because I remember just having so much negative dialogue. And the more you catch yourself doing that, the more you realize, oh, I need to like fill my mind. Like I need to reprogram my mind intentionally with things that are going to intercept those areas that are trying to intercept my life. So let's get into it, right? So every single thing, and that's why journaling is so important, and even leaving yourself voice notes so you can listen to yourself, like as to what you're struggling with. So you know exactly what to go to, right? And scriptures as well. Like having scriptures, especially ones around anxiety relief and stuff like that, knowing that, everything is going to be, if you delight yourself in the Lord, he'll take care of the desires of your heart. So all the things that you're worried about, stressed out about, all of that, there is a corresponding scripture and affirmation that'll be able to help you build in those areas. So it's a real tool that you can leverage repetitively to build up the mindset to even take the action steps to incorporate yourself into your routine. And that builds that love, that self-confidence that'll keep you sustaining, a better lifestyle.
I love affirmations. It's one of like my favorite things. And I always tell everyone like you need to do affirmations. It's so
Yes.
helpful. And I feel like what you said was great too, because I mean, just from what I've seen, again, I'm not a mom yet, but what I've seen is that parents who are happier also have happier children. If they're doing the things that they love, then their children will see that and they will also have that great example. And because of that, also be happier. So I'm wondering if that's your experience as well.
Absolutely. And back to that awareness thing again. Knowing that everything that you do is kind of being poured into your child, and you love your child so much, you want to change because you want them to be the best version of themselves that they could possibly be. So if that means like, hey, whatever you got to do, if it's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I am strong, I am beautiful. Like, just like you tell that baby that you love so much, you kind of got to go back and reparent yourself and realize the things that weren't said to you, the things that you needed to hear, the hugs that you didn't get. Ooh. And like really give yourself that, because if you don't, like that's going to show up. That's just the fruit, that shows up. But we have to water the tree of ourselves to really produce the fruit that we want to bear. And again, like the children, like they're little sponges, so they're seeing everything, they're feeling everything. So and that was something that my mother-in-law actually told me, like Patience, your emotions and everything, like that affects him. So you gotta have yourself at a certain place on a higher frequency so he can be there with you, so he doesn't feel everything that you're feeling. So that's something I had to get really hyper aware of. So definitely a good shift to have.
How old's your son right now?
He's a year old.
Oh, so little. What's one thing that you're, I guess teaching him would be like a very like harsh word right now because he's so little, but like what's one thing you want him to learn right now, or one thing that you're really trying to show him in this age or season of his life?
Well, I would say there's top two things, but the one thing, and I'll say it's more so out of just concern, because I always want to raise, I want to raise good human beings, right? Nice human beings. I want my child to be a nice child, right? And that doesn't mean being a pushover
Yeah.
or anything, but just being kind. I would love for him to be very kind, So, and that is something that I want to instill in him for sure and teach him. But again, like that's through like showing kindness and like showing what that looks like for him and being that model example. And then the other thing is knowing that he is destined for greatness. Knowing that he's born with that. Like you were born with a purpose. Like you were, that is part of my affirmations. It's like a little, just a list of different things that I say to him every day. But that's one of them. That is usually ended like with that. But you were born to do great things. Like you were born on this earth to do great things. Like that's what I say to him. And it's more like a little experiment just to see, like, is he going to grow up, kind of internalizing these words and really feeling like, I was born to do great things. I am strong. I am smart. I am loved. So it's
Yeah.
a great experiment to really see if these words that, speaking life over your children, if that makes a big difference in their life. Because, you know, I don't know, like if that happened for me like that in that repetitive kind of way. So I want to see.
You're giving me good ideas. I'm taking a mental note of what I will be doing
Yes.
with my kids. That's
Yes,
such good
because your
advice.
baby is on the
I
way. Your
love
baby girl
it.
is on the way.
Not too
Whenever
soon.
it's time,
Not
her
too
time.
soon.
Yeah. When it's her time to be
When I
here.
tell her.
Yes. Yes.
I love that. Just as we're wrapping up, I'd love for you to share what you're feeling most lit up by or called to in this next season of your life.
I'm a lover for music. I'm surrendered to music completely right now, and I've gone through my entire life wearing a lot of different hats. And I've never really put music in the front seat. And that's the thing that brings me the most joy and like the most love, and I feel the most aligned and like in tune in my zone of genius, like the Lord just flowing through me. And that's the one thing I never prioritized in my life. So that is the thing that I'm prioritizing in this next season moving forward. And whatever else like God, wants me to steward in like all the different, things and all the different businesses and ventures and podcasts as well. Just like whatever things God wants me to steward and be a servant leader of, that's what I'll be. But I also want to be a star. Like I want to be a star because I want my kids to know that they can be stars. And I feel like just in my family history and the lineage of so much potential, but nobody can see that light inside themselves to be the star that they already are. And I kind of want to break that generational curse in my family. So, but that takes for me being the star myself. And it gets scary and it's like, oh my gosh, but it's like at the end of the day, bring it on, because I don't want to pass this, generational curse down to my kids, because I want them to know they're talented, that they're born to do great things, that they are loved already. So just showing up as who they're meant to be and putting the thing that they love, the thing that gives them the most joy, number one, not even not on the list, but make sure it's number one. So that's for me moving forward. And another book. So I'm definitely writing another book. Have patience.
Oh, exciting. Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. It's well underway. But just like as you experience life and you just continue to pick up little nuggets along the way, it all like God, everything's working together for your good. Everything that you're hearing, you're learning, you're experiencing, even the painful things, even the things that don't seem like they're making any sense. It's all God is writing your story. So the writing continues. So, and that's writing, music, and just my family, creating more things to be excited about, creating more joy, more laughs, more love, more celebrations is where I'm headed.
I love that. Well, I've listened to some of your music and it's incredible, and everyone should go listen. And your poetry is really beautiful as well. And you have your book and everything. So tell listeners where they can find you, where they can listen to your music, get your book, all of that good stuff.
Thank you. You can find everything on my website, paymurray.com, PAEMURRAY.com. And you can follow me on socials at Paymurray, at Paymurray Music. You can find me on everything.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate you being on the podcast, Patience. I absolutely loved speaking with you, and thank you for your vulnerability and just sharing everything. It was really, really incredible.
Listen, you're doing such a wonderful job. I see so much more in store for you, and I'm excited to have been here to be able to be a part of this right now. But I'm so excited for you, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
I appreciate you. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And to everyone listening, hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.